Hey Civic students, I want to go over personal financial literacy key points in this particular video lesson. If we were in class, there's a couple of key points that I would want to make sure that we stress. Hopefully you've seen some of those in the EverFi modules, but because we may not be able to get through all of the modules by the end of the school year, there's a couple of key points that I just want to make. It's not all inclusive to personal financial literacy, and I'm hoping that you're going to have a conversation with your folks or people that you trust financially to give you some key pointers and key tips about how to make your money work for you. So, I'm going to move myself around a little bit. If I had one first tip to discuss with you guys, it would be to live within your means. Regardless of whatever your situation or time period is in life, whether it's going to college or if you're starting your retirement. Your life and your perspectives are going to change with your life experiences. So how you feel about things now may not be how you feel about things in the future. So be aware of that and be prepared for change. So, I've got a couple of pictures here, and, we look at dream houses and, things that are available for us. You have to think about, for example, if you're looking at this Ferrari on the upper right-hand side, that probably costs about as much as one of these houses over here. I don't know. I've never really looked. So, your car, that's your personal preference. It's going to get you from point A to point B. Do you need a minivan? What are your needs in life? Looking at this bottom left-hand picture over here, that's a picture that I Googled. It's inside of a mobile home and about how far structures have come in terms of mobile homes and the choices that you have with stick-built and modular homes. If you're going to rent or buy yourself a home, there's a lot of things to consider when you're beginning the process of adulting. But it's so very important to understand you need to live within your means. So that means we need to talk about a budget. So if we're going to talk about a budget, you need some income. So let's talk about careers. One of the most important things that I've ever heard, and I wanted to share with you guys, we would have talked about this in class, is to try to choose a career as early as possible. It doesn't mean you have to choose it right now. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Most people, when you can click on this, I'm going to include the presentation link also so you can click on these links. I've read here that people change jobs 10 to 15 times in their career. So it's miserable to stay in a job that you hate. So pick something that you are passionate about, that you love, that you want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go do. That's what I do. I have a master's degree. And so yes, I could go somewhere and earn more money, but I really do enjoy what I do. And so that's a trade-off. That's an economic term, trade-off, that I would rather do something that I love than to do something I don't love and earn a little more money. And if you choose a career, try to do so as early as possible. I mean, there are some benefits to this. You can earn seniority, valuable positions, credibility in your job, more money, and experience. But choose something, again, that you love. It's okay to not like every single thing. That's going to be something that's up to you to decide in your life. That's your decision. So you may want to start doing a little bit of research in terms of what you would like to do in the future. And yes, I live out in the country, and yes, my neighbors have guns and they like to target practice a lot. So let's take a look at our budget then for number 3. So the percentages at the top, 50, 30, 20 rule. You may have already heard about this, but you spend 50% on necessities like food and housing. Then you have 30% for discretionary spending. That means you can spend it at your discretion on things that you would like. If you're going to the movies or for entertainment, fun things, you're buying movies off of Amazon, whatever. And then 20% for savings. So when you're calculating your budget, that's an idea for you to consider. And again, if you wanted to open up the presentation that I have below this video, you can click on these URLs and it will help you to put in some numbers. If you just kind of wanted to see, if you're making a monthly figure of, say, $5,000, exactly what would that 50, 30, 20 rule look like? But going back to what we said to begin with, live within your means. So there's a lot of options today that are available, especially with technology available, that's going to help you live within your means, that might make life easier for you to track your spending and to track your savings as well. For example, if you want to track your retirement, you could just Google search, tracking retirement. How much money do I need to retire? And a recession, when we're looking at that, even though, our economy is not so great right now, it can be good for young people who are able to buy. Supply and demand says that, if the price of something goes down, that the demand for that product will go up. And so what happens is with interest rates, and that's the price of a loan, when interest rates go down, it's supposed to make demand go up and therefore spur the economy on. So this is a good opportunity for people who want to and can buy things, get low interest loans, for a house, for a car, for college. But you also remember you have to, and not at the bottom, you have to pay those bills though, okay? So if you want to buy those things, especially if you find opportunities and you're taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves to you, you still have to come down paying your bills. And it's actually pretty easy if you don't live within your means to go broke on $100,000 a year. I want to take a look at that really quickly. So this is the link that I wanted to show you really quickly about how you can actually go broke. On $100,000 a year. And I just thought it was a pretty interesting website if you wanted to click on it. You have $100,000 and then of course you save up for retirement right there. That's the $12,000 of 401k. You have a tax rate of 21%, which means that you're looking at almost a fifth to a quarter of your money coming out for taxes. And then you have your mortgage debt, $350,000, which means that you're going to have a mortgage payment of $2,000 a month. And so right there, when you're looking at how much, you're netting monthly, $5,700, you're almost there in terms of that 50-30-20 rule. So these people are not following that. Then you have to factor in, things like taxes and gas, electricity, phone, internet, car insurance, life insurance. I mean, you can just scroll through all of these things that you have, these expenses. And then it comes out where you have $6,819 worth of expenses, so you're losing a little over $1,000 every month. That's not effective budgeting, and that's not living within your means. So be aware of that. You have to be very aware of your money and your budget. So that's where we get to this part 2 of budget. Think of all of your expenses. I'm sure you could probably think of some really quickly off the bat. House, car, gas, phone, those kinds of things are easy. But have you considered your medical visits? Do you factor in any prescriptions that you have to take? Insurance, and I'm not just talking about health insurance. I'm talking about life insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance. My family cancer runs in my family, so a cancer policy perhaps. Have you factored in taxes for your property? If you own a house or a car, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. Do you tithe? Do you go to church? Are you going to factor in tithing? How about maintenance on your home or your car? The tires don't last forever on your car. A washing machine is going to eventually break. So you need to be sure to be aware of those so that you're not surprised. Set some money aside for things that are unforeseen expenses so that you're ready for them. Now, when you're thinking about, your expenditures and one of those being your home, you can play around with this mortgage calculator. And so if you click on that, it comes from NerdWallet. I like that. So you could play around with this and you can take a look at, now granted this is from California, but you could take a look at a home price, and if you don't have a down payment and your interest rate is 3.5%, which, it's kind of around that area now, you're still looking at a $1,900 payment a month. And I want you to understand you could pay off, your house early if you've got a 30-year loan. But when you look at how much money, when you look at that $1,900, when you start paying at the beginning of that 30-year loan, you're paying more to the bank in interest than you actually are paying off that $300,000 loan. So that's called amortization. If you've ever heard of an amortization schedule, then what happens is, I'm going to drag this over and kind of let you see at the end of the 30 years that you've paid approximately $300,000 back to the bank right here, but you've also paid $184,968 in interest. So that $300,000 you borrowed actually comes up to be $484,000 or more. I'll get it out in a minute. It is math. So you have to factor in the cost of interest. So you have to figure out, not just what's your dream home, but what dream home you can afford on a monthly basis. Also, if I could give you a tip for budgeting, I would recommend that you know how much you have. Check your checking and your savings and your credit score and what's on your credit card. So you have to be aware of your money at all times. Being aware is part of what we're doing, being informed. So it's your money. You have to take care of that. We have a lot of lessons that we've learned from a global pandemic about, saving and storing money. you should have, generally a lot of people recommend at least 3 months of savings, where if you happen to be out of a job or you're transitioning jobs, that you're able to survive for a few months before you can find another job. And, consider unemployment and, drawing unemployment in order to continue providing for your family. So there's a lot of lessons that we've learned from this global pandemic, and I hope that you'll take a moment to talk to your folks about that as well. So if I could give you a fourth tip, we would discuss this in class, is saving money. When you can even ask your folks, ask some of your friends about what you think is the most important thing. And it's generally they say, save money. That's one of the top things. And, making sacrifices now can pay off later is basically what it is. There are lots of ways to save and invest. And so, you've got the 50-30-20 rule where you're saving up 20%. Here's a link to look it over. Again, that calculated budget, 50-30-20 rule. So you could take a look at that. But I do want to pull up the smart asset types of investments. And I'm going to throw out even real estate over in the corner there. You can invest in land. You think about it, and there's no more land made. So, investing in real estate could be a good idea. But please, before you do any investing, do your research and avoid scams, because, man, they're out there. And, you don't want to lose your money. If you're working hard for it, you don't want to lose it. If it sounds too good to be true, probably is. So just be aware of doing your research and avoiding scams. Let's take a look at the smart assets. So I'm just quickly going to scroll through these, and I'd like for you, if you can, to go back and read through some of them that you may be interested in. A lot of people are interested in stocks, and with our economy now, it might be a good time to invest in some stocks, because our economy hopefully will build from here, and that means stocks will gain in value. And bonds, treasury bonds from the U.S. government. There's mutual funds. And then it gets into some things that I'm not aware of. Exchange-traded funds, you can read about that. Certificates of deposits, right now, that's where the government or the banks, will pay you interest rate to leave your money in the bank so they can loan it out to other people. But right now, those interest rates are very low. Retirement plans. Then you've got some options and annuities for retirement, cryptocurrencies, if you're interested in, I don't really know much about Bitcoins, commodities. And so here's some investing tips as well. Just be aware of doing your research and avoiding scams. If we were in class and we were talking about some ideas that you could keep in mind for personal financial literacy, it's comparing appreciation and depreciation. It means the value of something. Appreciate means it gains in value over time, and depreciate means it loses value. So taking a look at a house, for example, versus a mobile home. So a house, a stick-built house, usually gains in value, where mobile homes usually depreciate in value. However, mobile homes they're very nice these days. There are some regulations about where you can put them once you buy them, but you could, have a nice mobile home at a very low cost. You could also rent. But of course, with renting, you are paying money for someone else's home, but it could be a good low-cost option, especially if you're just starting out or if you're in transition from moving from one place to another. A car, a car depreciates in value. If you buy a brand new car, it depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. So you have to consider, what kind of car do you want to drive? Are you going to buy one that's brand new? There are some positives for that because, there's warranties. You also know that there's nothing wrong with it, so to speak, as opposed to buying a used car. You could still buy a pretty good used car these days, but that's something that you're going to have to do your research about. And of course, same thing with investments. The stock market has been fluctuating up and down some, so you have to be aware that if you're investing in stocks, that you're going to have some fluctuation. So you have to be aware of that, and I can't stress this enough, do your research. And that's just going to bring us to our last point for number 6, to be informed. Research, research, research. Ask people you trust about how they manage money. People that are successful, how do they manage money? Listen to the advice, but still, make your own choices. Make wise choices that are your own choices. I'm going to say this again. Do your research. Be aware of your money. Don't forget how much you're saving, how much you need to save. Some people just put stuff in retirement and they forget about it, but you need to check on that periodically. You've got to keep track of it because it's your money that you're earning. And if you're wanting to take a risk, maybe you want to invest in something, you want to maybe start your own business, and those things can be risky. What would I recommend you do? research, research, research. Talk to people, research on the internet. Talk to people who are successful and get some advice. But in the end, make those choices that are wise choices for you. So I hope this discussion has been helpful, and I would really like to encourage you, since, we're kind of still in this quarantine, stay-at-home kind of thing, even though people are getting out and about a little bit more, I would like to encourage you to talk with your folks and your friends about, personal financial literacy, people that you trust, of course. And I'd like for you to answer for this particular assignment in a text box in Canvas, what do you think is the most important piece of financial advice young people should be aware of? If it's something that's beyond what we've discussed in the video, maybe an EverFi or something else that you've learned from another source somewhere, then please include that too. And I look forward to hearing your responses. Well, seeing your responses, seeing what you write.